You must be careful about the words you use, or the words you allow to be used in your house. Words are things. You must be careful. Careful about calling people out of their names, using racial pejoratives and sexual pejoratives and all that ignorance. Don't do that.
It's time to talk about it.
Pull up a chair and take a seat.
We're serving up recipes for life.
With Hampton University's Dr. Richard Mason and Dr. Tamara Williams.
Welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And this is Dr. Richard Mason. And welcome back to the table for another edition of Sunday Brunch with the good doctors.
The good doctors that are feeling good.
Man, talking about feeling good. It's a new year, new day. All of what 2024 has in store. We are here for it.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here for all of that. The ups and downs, the all arounds. It's just a blessing to be able to be here. As we say, to be seen and not viewed.
That's right.
Many people didn't make it into 2024, and a lot of people may have set out to.
Right.
May have thought they were going to cross that barrier, but they didn't. So I'm really excited to be at Sunday Brunch today.
Listen, I'm excited just about what's in store for this upcoming year. Lots of things are happening. Lots of good things are happening.
Good things.
Yes. So I'm really excited. A good friend of mine, he always says some of us aren't able. And when you're talking about people who didn't make it to see today, there are some folks who thought they were going to be here and woke up and they won't.
Didn't wake up. That's the problem. That's the concern right there. And then some people, they are awake, but they still sleep.
Exactly.
That's not even today's conversation,
right,
but we could spend some time there about the people who are walking around like zombies because they.
Listen, who was that said there are people dying every day?
Every single day.
That ain't never died before.
Well, you understand? Don't even know they did.
Listen, but that part.
Ignorance will kill some people, and so hopefully. More conversations we get to have that we can continue to know better, because when we know better, we do better.
And we will certainly not have you sit at our table and be ignorant.
And hungry. You got to feed more than just the body. You feed the spirit, the soul, all of that stuff. And, we are big, proponents of not compartmentalizing to the point where you separate yourself out of everything around you, but being mindful that we're all of these different things.
Exactly, and how all of it plays a part. One of the things that, for certain, we talk about the fact that you have to understand your feelings and emotions, because your feelings and emotions guide your thoughts, and your thoughts guide your actions.
It's not our feelings that really get us in trouble, but it's what we do with them.
Exactly.
It's how they come out, how we decide to manage them. I love feelings, and I feel all of them. You understand? I don't stay in my feelings, but we're entitled to our feelings. It's not our feelings that get us in trouble.
Exactly.
And I don't like when people try to tell people how to feel about something, because you don't know really what came before all of that.
Exactly.
But you can help people understand ways in which they can express themselves.
That's it, and that's the biggest piece, because it's almost like when you were a kid. I can't speak for everybody's household. You know what I'm saying? But I was that kid who got a whooping just about every day.
That was not my ministry.
Listen,
I avoided a whipping.
It wasn't mine either, but I was there for the service. All right.
Pass me, Savior.
But I remember, you're getting that whooping, and your mama or your dad would say, "You better stop all that crying. That don't hurt."
The devil is a whole lie.
I wouldn't dare say, "Well, give me the belt and let me hit you."
It sounded to me that you probably got a couple whippings because you dared say.
A couple.
Because you dared say.
Listen, now I will say this: I might have got a whooping every day, but I got a whooping for something different every day. You know what I'm saying? I learned.
Oh, Lord.
I learned. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do that again. I might have done something else, but I didn't do that again.
Well, that is the definition of learning.
Exactly.
A lasting change caused by an experience.
Listen, a change gonna come.
A lasting
change. And it did.
Right. You said you didn't do the same thing over again. So when we do the same things over again and over again, expect a different outcome. That's the definition of insanity.
My sisters used to laugh at me because I got a whooping every day. I said, but I got a whooping for something different. Y'all the ones who getting them whoopings every day for the same thing.
You ain't learned.
Mom and Dad ain't gonna catch me me sleeping. They may catch me, but they gonna catch me sleeping.
I tell you what, you rarely tested those limits and those boundaries.
I
Will
did.
I get a whipping if I go this way? Will I get a whipping if I go that way? That's a true scientist right there. I think we just have to learn how to reframe things when we look at our children's behavior. You know, that's a little trial and error right there.
That's it.
You kept some good data.
Listen.
This will get you whooped.
Did I?
This will keep you by.
Did I? Catalog. Just said,
Yeah.
put it in the brain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's it. And when I thought it was something that was close to that, no, I'm not going to do that because, see, I might get a whooping again for that, you know. So
I learned vicariously through my older brother who probably did some of what you did. And so, you know, I didn't have to touch the stove and know it was hot. He was burnt. Okay, so I was like, all right, I see that. That doesn't work. That was a different type of science and different type of learning. We call that observational learning. Where you observe from others and you learn vicariously. So it still
Exactly.
works. But either way, bro, I'm just excited. I'm sure everybody can tell that we are just excited to be back here
Yes.
at the table. With so much to talk about. We had a little break for the holidays, and so it's great.
Oh yeah, a refreshing break, you know. And that's the thing. You have to make sure you take time. And once again, I don't say rest. You know what I'm saying? Never ask the Lord for rest because He might get you confused in what you're
eternal
asking for.
rest,
You know what I'm saying?
right? Yeah.
And call you home, and you look up and you sitting at the gate trying to figure out how did I get here? You asked for rest, my child. You know what I'm saying?
You've always been consistent about that.
No,
You don't ask for rest.
Relaxation and rejuvenation.
I
That's
don't
it.
pray for patience.
No, because I won't be tested.
I don't need no tribulations in my life. They
Nope.
come naturally.
Exactly. But had a good break.
Yes, it was restorative for me.
Yes.
And that's why I have like the energy now. You can hear that coming through. It's because I did get a little sick over the holidays. That typically happens when people tend to slow down. Sometimes their body responds to that. But I was thankful that I had the opportunity to be able to listen to my body and to take care of myself. And I had to say no to quite a few people over the holidays. Unapologetically, I said no and created some new boundaries for myself and my family, started some new traditions, and made some decisions over desserts.
All right.
That was good, too.
Listen. I'm going to tell you right now, some of the best decisions have been made over some cheesecake. I'm going to tell you right now.
I made some Jell-O cake this holiday. Yeah, you know,
All right,
one of my
all right.
mother's specialties, and so I dabbled into that a little bit.
All right. You
And-
make a banana pudding?
I don't like bananas. I don't deal with monkeys either. That's another conversation.
No. I was about to go there, but you know what? I'm
we're
going
not gonna go there
to just
today.
go into the buffet.
Okay,
I
go
see them
to the
putting out some
okay.
more bacon. I see
But you
some
can't
grit.
go until
Listen.
we talk about our actual topic of today and how we bring this in. So in all this excitement, I thought it'd be great if we could have a conversation about leadership today. You know, at the beginning of the year, everybody wants to start with these New Year resolutions. Everybody wants to start with this vision. They say they have these vision boards and they have these visions now of what they're going to do for the remainder of the year. But you know how we are at the table. You don't start at the beginning of the year. You start in that moment. You make a plan, you make a
Listen.
goal, you set it at that moment. You don't wait and hesitate because opportunities don't go away. They go to somebody else.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
we always stay in motion.
Listen.
And we stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
You're playing, but you got to make sure you just understand the day. You know, there's some folks that are doing this thing and not having any alcoholic beverages for the month of January. They're calling it Dry January. You know, I told some folks I know they just better try to do Dry Tuesday. You know, then go to Dry Wednesday. You know, because I don't know if some of them gonna make it to January 31st. You understand what I'm saying? So.
Lord have mercy. Have mercy. There's a lot of things we need to dry up in our lives, though.
Exactly.
Day by day, moment by
So
moment.
pay
Yeah.
attention to those resolutions and
Yeah.
things like that or whatever, because when you start putting those things in place, you got to ask yourself, is this about a lifestyle change? You know, understanding that component of what resolutions mean. You know,
What have you actually resolved to do? What have you decided you're going to change? And what is the purpose of that? Because I find that when we really know why we're doing things, we tap more into those things, we buy more into those things, and we will behave in ways that will support those things because we'll believe it.
Exactly.
So, but today we're going to talk about this leadership part. What I always find interesting, you and I have worked many places and we work with many different people. And what we always find is the changes in leadership, new things in leadership, and who follows leaderships and complaints in leaderships, and who is growing in leadership. One thing we know is just because somebody calls themselves something, that does not make them that specifically. So I am excited about our guest today. Our guest today is also a good doctor, a good doctor, also into education. We've had him on the show before. He talked about vision and understanding things then when he was here before. He was in an interesting place in his life. That's what made the conversation so interesting. We talked about how when people think if you get a degree or if you go to school that you're automatically going to have a job or you're going to be working in that field in which you set out for. But he had some life changes because some things were happening in leadership. So he decided that he was going to first be that leader of himself so that he could lead his family, right? So one key point of leadership we know is that you can't lead anybody else if you can't lead yourself.
That's very
who's
true.
Following somebody who don't know where they're going? Because the blind is what? Leading the blind straight into the ditch. So welcome out of the ditch, the man who helps other people get out of ditches, which I love the people who know how to reach back and help other people in the system and the lessons that they've learned. They're sharing these lessons.
That's what it's all about.
I'm excited to invite back to the table Dr. Daryl Crosby.
Yes. Welcome to the table. Back to the table.
Back to the table.
That's right.
I'm back. Good.
Entrepreneur extraordinaire. So many different things.
Man.
Yes.
Listen.
Yes.
So much has happened since our last conversation, man. But I'm grateful for everything, man. I'm grateful for it all. I was in a rough spot, man. And but you got to go through those things, as leaders. Leaders, in order for them to be in a position to effectively lead someone, they have to have seen something other than just success all the time. You haven't been tested. You don't have anything to bring to the table.
You can't appreciate that struggle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the struggle.
Yes, it is.
So I'm definitely grateful to be here, man. I always enjoy, connecting with y'all.
Life hasn't life
Man, that's the haircut. I just got the edge up. That's what that is.
I was like, there's some people, that go through a storm and they look like the struggle.
Right, you're right. You are right about that. You are right about that. Yes.
Some of you like, thank God we don't look like what we've been through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Somebody says, man, you struggling. You don't look like it.
It's evident.
Yes.
And for us at the top, when you're in leadership and when you have titles, people are always watching you and how you respond to your struggles in your life. What you put out there on social media versus what you don't, what they see, what they hear, they're always watching.
And you have to be careful with that because I always believe they're watching you for some people are watching you because they truly admire you and they're getting their strength and their inspiration off of you. But other people are watching because they're just waiting
Praying
for
on
your
your
downfall.
downfall.
They're waiting for you to mess up.
Yeah.
So they can bring you down,
Or
so they can
orchestrating it.
right, exactly, so they can create that narrative, just waiting for that opportunity to come up. So you just have to be careful, man. Leadership is not easy. It is not easy, but it's so influential.
And a lot of times when you're in leadership, you don't even realize how many people are watching you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you're so busy in that work, that service work.
Exactly. I always like to say you have generations of people watching. People that you don't even realize that's watching you. They're paying attention. Kanye West said, "Is 1,000 y'all is one of me," right? So I think that's fitting for leadership because you just don't know who's taking a look at how you walk into a building. You never know who's paying attention to how you're speaking to people,
That's
how you're
right.
talking to people, not necessarily what you're saying to them, but how you're talking
your
to them.
body language, all those aspects.
Absolutely.
I like
You gotta be
that
careful.
You mentioned even Kanye West because that adds even another element to leadership. There's a lot of people in leadership with a whole lot of personality disorders and things going on that impacts how they lead.
She done took it straight to mental health.
Straight to mental health.
There. You know what I'm saying? And not ignore, the reality of it is that a lot of times people's personality plays a part in the ways in which they see the world and lead the world and expect you to follow too. So if a person has a strong personality disorder and you tell that joker no,
you got issues.
You having all types of narcissistic
you find out a whole lot of things.
You're gonna see some people responding in temper tantrums. All of a sudden, they're not as professional and disrespectful because you triggered them.
Seen that.
Hello, somebody. Hopefully, none of us have been that. Hey. But that's the conversation that a lot of people don't want to have at the table.
Yeah.
They don't want to have at the table. Yeah. Why didn't you follow that order? Why didn't you do what they said to? Why are you not showing up to work now? Why I told you to do this. Why didn't you do this?
Exactly.
But they may not understand all that goes along with that.
Absolutely.
But that speaks to the type of leader a person is.
A non-leader?
Exactly. And see, leadership is different from authority.
And dictatorship.
Exactly. You may have the authority to do certain things, but are you effective as a leader? And I think that's where you find those folks who are authoritative because they have the authority. They are ineffective leaders, because when you find someone who is capable of thinking critically or even analytically and not just following, you see what I'm saying? And then they run up against an authoritative leader who just expects you to do what I say do, versus I'm trying to tell you, you're about to
run into a brick wall.
Exactly. You're about to run around this corner here, and you don't understand what's waiting on you around this corner. You follow me? I want someone who's able to have that foresight, or someone who may have even been down that road to say, guess what? There's a dead end on this street. Or around that corner is a bus coming because it's a one-way street. Versus just following me blindly, and I have 20 other people behind me, and guess what? We all run around that corner because I said, let's charge this corner.
And we all get hurt. Good leaders listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they watch. And they observe like good scientists before they make statements. It's not like just speaking because you see something, but you're really collecting that data because you realize good leadership is understanding that it doesn't just impact you. It impacts other people and people that you don't even see and you don't even know that it impacts.
There's a Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren, his book, very first sentence, it's not about you. Right there, when I first picked up that book, read that, almost put that book down, because to me, that just summarizes leadership, effective leadership. It's not about the leader. That leader is just the person that's there to help the other people to get to that next level.
And to make the decisions and to corral the people and to provide structure and order. So the leader is going to start at that line, is going to be giving directives. If you can't make decisions, you don't need to be in leadership.
Absolutely. But they don't, not all leaders realize that. Some people get into that whole leadership thing for the clout. For
they
the
want their picture to be bigger than everybody else's picture.
Absolutely.
And that's why he says it's not about you.
It's not about you at all.
Because people can smell that, they can sense that, and that's where the mutiny comes in. That's when people are calling in, and you don't get your best from your workers when it's all about you. Because they know ain't no team. And what am I killing myself for? Because I'm working harder than you.
And then you have some people who can't smell that, who can't sense that. And that's who is the most detrimental, because they're putting all of their belief, they're putting everything, their trust in this particular leader who doesn't have their interests at heart. And so they don't know how to maneuver without that, or they don't know how to, they can't decipher the intentions of the person, and so they're going to follow everything that this person's doing. And if that person doesn't have that empathy and that mindset that, hey, I got people behind me, they're going to ruin the people who are following them.
They're setting them up for failure.
Absolutely.
And then when it's their time to lead, they won't even know and understand that structure.
No, because they're going to lead based on the example that they were given. Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. When I teach
parenting classes, I tell them, you parent the way you've been parented unless you actively choose to make a difference. It's like your default setting.
Right.
It's what you're naturally going to gravitate right back to.
That's your comfort zone
Yeah,
of
it's what
parenting
you
in that
know.
situation.
You come from conflict,
Yeah.
you're going to create conflict.
Yep.
That's how you define
Because there's
it.
always something going. The shoe's going to drop at some point, so let me prepare myself.
And if it doesn't drop soon enough, you start throwing and chucking shoes yourself just to hear the sound, because people get accustomed to that.
Right.
There's some people who are just argumentative people.
Yes.
They fight, and you sit and listen to them. You're trying to figure out, what are you arguing about?
Right. Exactly.
And
Some
they
people
don't know.
thrive in conflict. Like
Right.
they have to have some sort of dissonance around them for whatever reason. But that stems
It
to
creates comfort for them.
yeah, exactly, and that stems from their background or however they're brought up. They just can't operate in peace.
Yeah.
And I don't get
you
it.
see it all the time, some people think that just makes it normal because you see it. That doesn't make it.
It's dysfunctional.
There you go. And toxic. That's what that makes it. And people
Yeah.
create excuses because they're like, well, that's how it's supposed to be. Not necessarily. That's how you've accepted it to be.
Yep.
Well, that's an example of even dealing with students, for example, and time management. Some students procrastinate and they feel like, well, I get my best work done at the 11th hour. No.
The lies you tell. You killing your body, you stressing yourself out.
You create a crisis. You understand what I'm saying? And
They get comfortable living in crisis.
Exactly.
Or they don't feel motivated to move unless there's a fire in the house.
Oh,
so they're not practicing jumping. You know, what am I jumping for? Because nothing is on fire. So they're not ready. They only want to respond and react to things in that way.
Well, see, I always tell my students, you can't live your life with your hair on fire every day of your life.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And having to explain to them what that does to the amygdala in your system and your reaction time and the frontal, your frontal, all of that stuff, and how now you're constantly running around
Anxious.
exactly, and how it creates those problems. And I always tell myself, I liken that to just being chased by a dog. If you've ever been chased by a dog, your body is just responding, and you're going to jump on a car, you're going to run, you're going
And people tell you, don't run.
Yeah.
They tell you, don't run. Stay there.
Don't talk
Okay?
Don't talk to them. Those are the people that got bit. Don't talk to them. Just freeze. Right,
But,
right.
yeah, they tell you stuff. Don't do it. They'll chase you. You know, people have a lot of things to say. People who have never ever been in those experiences have a lot of things to
Right.
say. But back to leadership is about looking and researching about what has been done before, so that when you do say something, that you have something of substance to say. What really gets me is people who like to hear themselves talk, but they're saying nothing. Nothing.
Oftentimes, I say, sometimes as leaders, we just have to shut up. We have to be able to rely on the team that's around us, and we have to be able to take from what they're saying, add it to our book, and we have to be able to put, again, going back to, it's not about us. At sometimes we have to, that's why 2 ears, 1 mouth. We have to be able to listen. When we're listening, what I heard someone say, when we're talking, we're repeating ourselves. We know what we're saying. We've heard it before in our minds, but when we're listening, we're hearing these things for the first time. So we have to develop. Now, there are times as leaders we do have to step out in front and we do have to lead the situation. But most of the time, we make our best decisions after we have listened, after we have heard from the people on our team, or even the people that's not on our team. But as a leader,
I think that's
we have
very
to be
important.
listeners. Yes.
Because when you're listening to everybody who's just like you around you, they call that groupthink. And people tend to not be able to see outside of themselves when everybody is thinking the same way.
Yeah.
Like, the type of teams that I like to lead is, I don't want anybody on my team that can do the exact same thing that I can do. I don't need you to do what I can do. I need you to do the things I can't do.
Right.
Or that I don't have the time to do specifically, that you love and this is your specialty, because then you're going to give me your best work.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're a part of the team because that's your part. That's the role that you get to play.
And that's a level of modesty and humbleness that a leader must have, because and I know there's leaders who can't take the fact that someone else can do something that I can't do as a leader, because I'm a leader and I need to be in front of everything. I need to be able to do everything. So as a leader, we have to be able to sit back and embrace.
Ask them how many degrees do they have. How many jobs do you? How many hands do you have? I think part of like me just kind of growing in the professionalism is understanding what I can and cannot do.
Absolutely.
And I think good leadership is understanding that aspect of what you can and what you cannot do. And then the next level was just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Absolutely.
So I can do this or I could do that, but that's not most efficient way to handle that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're creating a sense of empowerment for the team that you're leading, because you've shown that you trust them to operate in their gifts and operate in their abilities. Now that brings about a level of cohesion because they trust the leader, because that leader trusts them. And that just brings about that unity. It brings about that empowerment that says, that confidence to say, you know what, whatever that task is, whatever that project is, we can do it because my leader believes in us.
And I also believe in getting to know who's on your team. And
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't find the value necessarily in this because it takes a little bit of extra work, and also because they feel like it's not all business, because part of that involves you becoming personally involved with that individual's life. So if I know that your mother is sick, then I'm not going to give you this project specifically,
Correct.
even though you may be best at that. And even though it's in your job description to do that, a level of leadership is also understanding compassion of
Absolutely.
like what you may have put too much on an individual and you might need to pull that back at some point in time.
Yeah. And that falls under the umbrella of relationships. Like, relationships are the key to life, period. And if you're leading people, if you're leading a team, developing those relationships is going to be the difference between whether or not your team is successful or not. You have to have the relationships because there's a lot that comes with building those relationships. Like you said, learning people, learning how they operate, learning how they respond in adversity. That way when things hit the fan, all right, they're on my team, I'm leading them, I may not be able to depend on them when this situation happens because they might get frazzled.
That one to the meeting to discuss this because this is not going to go well when they get questioned.
Exactly.
Right? It's understanding that aspect about their personality. It's not demoralizing them or even demonizing them for being different. It's just understanding what that difference is and how it manifests.
Yeah. And good leaders have to recognize that.
You better.
They have to.
You have to know where people are on your team, the temperament of certain people and all. Everybody has a role. There are some folks who are visionaries. They're great at casting vision. But then there's some who are great at just doing the work,
The details of it all.
Exactly.
Yep,
you
They
can't
want
have
you to tell them what to do. If you give them a directive, military follow it.
Yeah.
And you just know that that's their specialty. But like you said, there's other people who they need explanation before they move.
Yeah.
Military is not for them because in the military you follow directives and people or they
No
die.
questions, right.
No questions, so that is a different mindset of also what environment you're leading in. There's some people who have led in different environments and they try to take that leadership skill over into a different environment. Don't fit.
Yeah.
Different people, different environment, different product.
Absolutely.
I like to think about teams like, of course, I never played football. I know you did. I heard that you did. So, it's about trusting your team too. If you don't treat people right, are they blocking for you? Are they taking them hits for you? We all
Not
see
at all.
what happens.
Right. Yeah,
if you don't know how to communicate with people, you don't respect what they do because you think what you do is better than what they do. How many hits are they taking for you?
Right.
They moving right to the side and they let them come right.
Yeah.
Every single time it's going to be a quarterback sack.
Right, exactly.
Every single time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And unfortunately, people get hurt. You have people who can get hurt in those types of situations.
Long-term injuries.
Yes.
Out the game forever. Because you were not paying attention and not taking care of your team. And, I also have seen the leaders in life who like to take credit for what their team does. As if they did it all by themselves.
Yeah, and that's never the case. Nothing is done by one person. It takes a team to do everything. Whether, like you said, people play different roles. Some people might be more behind the scenes. Some people like to be behind the scenes and not in front of everybody and everything. But success is not achieved alone. There's always people in the background. And you're right, you have leaders who want to soak in all of the recognition.
But when they messed up,
come on now, they don't want that accountability, right? They want to shift the blame.
They will throw everybody under the bus
Right.
before they even come and get a ticket.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a problem with leadership. But we see it all the time, and that's something internal that it comes from inside. Leaders. I always like to say, effective leaders know better. Effective leaders, they take the responsibility, they take the blame. You know what I mean?
Because ultimately, it is
It's
your
going to fall on them,
responsibility.
right? And so they understand that, and they know how to deal with that. And they give the proper credit. Matter of fact, they don't take the credit for themselves.
Right.
They say, yeah, we might have accomplished this, but it was such and so who really put this. It's a we. And my father always told me, when you're listening to people, pay attention to how many times they use I and me and my. I was the reason why this happened. This was
Look what I can do.
Right. Pay attention to that.
Right.
Because you can really just allow them to kind of tell on themselves. And without seeing in action, you can hear what type of leader they're going to be, or what type of person that they're going to be.
A plagiarizer.
Oh.
Come on now. Come on.
I'm going back to the buffet.
I ain't say no names. But we know the personality types. You see what happens. I say plagiarizer because they're stealing the work that other people did, and they're saying that they did it, and they're presenting as if it's their own. But when you ask them any questions, they can't tell you about the data because they don't know about the research because they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
They didn't do the
They
work.
don't understand the
They didn't do
essence
the
behind
work.
the idea. They don't.
They minimalize
yeah.
what people are doing. When you don't understand what it takes to do certain jobs, you don't understand what it takes to do certain jobs. And so you will then not value the people who are really working. And then when you take the credit from them, they're seeing that you really don't understand what it takes to do this job. You don't value me
Yeah.
and what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
You a counterfeiter.
Yeah. And then everybody's looking stupid. And we can't move forward with leaders like that.
I don't want to be on that team.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when people call out. You understand? That's when people try to circumvent the systems. That's when people get sick and they start needing days out. That's when they create reasons to be out. And sometimes people don't even really know. That's why I want us to have the conversation. Like sometimes people don't know why they don't want to go to work, or they don't know why they don't want to be a part of a team. They don't know why, what it is. They can't put their finger on it because they've never read about it, But they know that how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
As people, we know who we want to dine with. We know who we want to be at the table with.
Yeah.
We know who we want to bump into.
Yeah.
And we know who we want to avoid. And some of us are taking a long way home, but we're taking a long way to work too.
You're right about that.
Showing up late.
Not at all.
I got here when I did because I ain't really want to come.
Right. The motivation is
It
gone.
changes. What it feels like, the temperature in the room changes, in the building. The people, whatever you service, they can sense that, they can feel that. You can't hide some of that.
Like there's a saying that says, people don't leave their jobs; they leave their leaders.
That's it.
And the leadership in that organization is going to determine the morale of that organization.
There's many places I probably should have left, but if you believe in a leader and their vision, you're willing to play your part to make that goal be achieved.
Absolutely.
Even in dire circumstance, so you're like, well, we don't have what we need, or it would be more efficient if we could do it this way. If you trust your leader and you really support them and you feel supported by them, you will continue to show up.
You feel supported, you feel valued, you feel like what you bring to the table is something that is being utilized in the right way and not abused. But that all comes in that cannot be achieved without the relationship. You know, there has to be conversation. There has to be time taken to build with this person on the team. You know, you learn so much in the conversation. You learn so much breaking bread with people and just talking, not necessarily even talking about, you know, the daily operations of the position or of the job or whatever the situation. Talk to them about their families. You know, this tips for leaders, right? Talk to them about the family. Talk to them about their sports team. You know, talk to them about their pets. You know, get them to open up so you can understand, you know, who they are, why they do what they do, you know, what they believe in, and that type of thing. That's how you build those relationships.
Even if you don't agree,
absolutely,
we don't have to agree to still be and exist in the same space.
Absolutely.
We can still respect each other's differences.
Yes.
Unless they're a Cowboys fan. I said it. I said it.
Wait
Fight.
a minute.
Fight.
Here we go.
I said it.
Here we go.
I said it. I said it. Unless they're a Cowboys fan.
Hold up.
Anyway.
That's not the only thing you feel that strongly about. I can tell it all, but that ain't the only thing you feel that strongly about. But anyway, we all have our things. We all have our limitations.
Right.
You know, definitely for sure. There's some people who I won't dine with, and it doesn't mean you're being judgmental. It's just that, you know, if we all have the same 24 hours in a day, there's some people I don't want to even have 5 minutes of time with.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's not meant to put their feet under your table.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of it all.
Correct.
You know, I learned that a long time
And definitely
ago.
not their finger in my plate.
Come on now. You want fingers in your plates.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Pull it back a whole nother.
You done went to a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
That's another conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's what a lot of times people are when, you know, poor leaders, they have their fingers in your plate. Poking fingers in your face sometimes too.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Pushing, shoving, you know, because a lot of times people who are not in leadership doesn't mean they don't aspire to be. Sometimes they haven't had that opportunity, you know, and so it makes it hard for some people to do their job sometimes when people won't just be a human being or, you know, a relatable leader. Yeah.
And that goes into what I call leadership lineage. You know, as a leader, one of the things as a leader, you should be always trying to build other leaders. You know, you should never approach. I always like to say leadership is a platform, not a pedestal. And what I mean by that, a pedestal, you're standing, you're sitting high.
One more time for
leadership
people.
is a platform and not a pedestal.
That's it right there.
Meaning on a pedestal, you're standing high above everybody looking down. You're by yourself. But when I think of a platform, I think of a stage. And if I could go back to my hip hop roots, I think of Wu-Tang, right? Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang
It felt like they had 268 members of Wu-Tang, but they were all on stage at the same time, you know. And that's what I feel like from the leadership standpoint in the use of the platform. As a leader, you should be training, you should be modeling, you should be giving other people that opportunity to get on stage with you as a leader.
Good leaders don't just create duplicates of themselves, but good leaders are great mentors and they help people to achieve their best specifically. Good leaders will celebrate when you even go beyond them. Because to them that is like an honor. Like, look how much you have grown and learned. There's nothing that gives me greater joy than when I see my students come back to campus and they have developed some amazing things, or they now have that doctor title, or they've gone, and I don't ever, you know, they say, I want to be like you when I grow up, Dr. Williams. That's the craziest thing I tell them. I said, I want you to be better than me.
That's right.
Better than me. I don't, if you come back in 5 years and I'm the same me, I'm not doing my work.
That's right.
So don't try to aspire to be where I am right now, because I'm not trying to stay here. What are you talking about?
Right.
Like we're lifelong learners. We're going to always continue to evolve. So I love good leaders who don't try to keep you small, but allow you to be as big as you need. You know, when you get those fish, they grow as big as the tank. You feel me? So like I like leadership. They give you big tanks. You know, you want to be in environments that, you know, good leaders are able to see when their people are growing. They provide them with opportunities to allow them to continue to grow and to show and demonstrate their growth.
Absolutely.
And to practice that thing.
Absolutely.
Or I say perfect that thing.
Yeah. Because now that opens up the access portal, right? If the people that I'm leading, if they grow on to be better leaders than me, now I have access to what they have access to.
Say so.
You know, and now
that's
I can
right.
grow even more. Just because, I may be older than them, position-wise might be a little different. That doesn't mean I can't learn from you.
Right.
That's the goal. I want to be able to learn. I want to multiply this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, to be able to open doors for other people.
Yes.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it may not be my goal to work in this environment, but guess what? If my ability to work with you as a person and help you develop your leadership style leads you to that place, now guess what? My reach is even greater because now I can connect someone else that I'm working with, mentoring. Now I can connect them to someone else who can then branch out and connect them to even more people.
It's not crabs in a bucket.
No.
It's branches of a tree.
That's right.
And it's a whole different mentality.
Yeah.
Family's not defined by blood. I'm not trying to say we all have to
Right.
be family, but we can
Right.
still treat each other, hopefully better than your family treats you.
That's right. That's
Or
right.
hopefully better than that,
But we just have to make sure we are working with people, and as we're developing leaders, we are planting seeds in fertile ground. And really what they say, planted by the rivers where the waters run and all that stuff. Something y'all know a little something about that. But the reality is you have to make sure that you are putting people in places and helping them to become better, so that they can help the next person.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, that's what it's all about. It's about being able to establish resources. As a professor, being able to tap into students who have gone on to do some amazing things, and now having other students step back and say, hey, listen, I want to do this. I'm glad you asked. Because guess what? I know someone who's worked in that area or who is employed with that agency. Go reach out to that person. You can talk to them. They can give you the good, the bad, the ugly, because guess what? Those are the types of leaders that I want to create. I want to create those leaders who's not just going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yes.
They're going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can make an informed decision.
Yes.
Because what may be good for you may not be good for me.
Yes.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Everybody.
Good leadership is, I know I'm not going to always be here.
Exactly.
So that's why you are creating these
Yeah.
avenues for other people and these guidelines for other people to follow, not keeping it all to yourself.
That's
so
right.
you're the only person that can do something.
Right.
Then that's all you'll ever be able to do.
Yeah.
But when you reach out to other people, I find the most giving people are the most blessed people. And it doesn't mean that they have all the money in the world,
Right.
but they're happy. They walk
Yeah.
around looking happy.
peace.
They interact with other
Yeah.
people, want to be around them. They
Yeah.
want to be around other people.
Yeah.
Until they don't, which is okay,
Right.
But you don't see them bringing issues
Right.
and entertaining all that stuff.
No.
And this is a different level of peace. And I think as we get older, we should mature towards
Absolutely.
that part of self-actualization.
Absolutely. Peace is powerful.
What you say?
Listen,
And you can't put
listen.
money on that.
That's right.
And you know what people, a lot of times I think people forget, like as you're living in the moment, that you're still creating a legacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you're living in this moment, people are going to remember these things that you're doing. You think
That's
it's
right.
just a temporary type of thing, but it's lining up to your name. And people, it's going to speak before you enter a room after a while.
Yeah.
People are going to hear about you before you show up based on the things that you've done
Yeah.
to other people.
And I'm big on legacy, man. Like, live a life that leaves a legacy. That's one of my quotes that I like to use.
You
and
know I
like to-
set that up on purpose.
Listen.
Okay,
Listen,
do that.
I saw that. I saw that. All right.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
are watching, like people,
Yeah.
and that's the whole point. That's the kind of stuff that makes a difference. That's what you want people to remember you by. My mom was like the work I've done speak for me, and that's just kind of how I was raised. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about what I say. Look at what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about what I'm
Actions.
wearing.
Yeah.
That's not important.
Yeah.
Listen to what we got going on. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to help people. You're trying to save people, and that's what people remember. Are you trying to hurt them? Are you trying to help them?
Right.
That's right.
Are you friend or you foe?
Yeah.
Speak now, forever hold your
Yeah.
peace.
That's
Your
it.
peace.
Right.
Yep.
And get,
Right.
and look, and get into how you made them feel. You know,
Yeah.
because that's one of the things we talk about all the time as well. They may not remember exactly what you did for them, but it's also how you made them feel. And that's certainly a quality of a good leader.
Yes.
Even when you have to discipline someone, There's a way to do it with dignity.
Yes.
Hello, somebody.
You understand what I'm
Leave
saying?
people with their self-respect.
Exactly.
Stop
Because they
talking to
will
people
grow.
like they're 3 years old, and you parented them.
That's it.
A wise man once told me, "You praise in public, chastise in private."
Real
You
talk.
know, in front of people, out in public, you give them all the props. But you got to pull them in the room. Hey, man, didn't we already have a conversation about it? Man, don't you go out there and do this? You get them. You get them in private, but that's between you and that person.
And you leave them with respect.
Yes.
Because
They'll remember that.
And you don't have to yell at people. My best conversations come in a whisper.
Come on.
Listen.
Because it's not for everybody.
Whisper,
That's
that's scary
You
right
hear
there.
what I'm telling you? You hear my best conversations come in a whisper, because usually when I'm whispering to someone, I'm saying something that's only specifically for them, and it's tailor made just for them. I see you struggling. I want you to know I see it's okay. Like call me if you need. I got you. That's a whisper.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody to hear, but that person heard it. The person who needs to hear it hears it, and they're able to move on. The things I do for people, I do in silence.
Yeah.
I don't need an announcement.
That's right.
Did you just save this or you just did
right.
that? Because it's not about that.
Right.
The people who need to know what happened, those are the people
That's right.
that know.
And people hear that. And that's the plus, is that when you're trying to teach someone, whether it is through a mistake that they've made or whether or not it's an accomplishment that they made, you want them to hear that. And so even when you have to discipline someone for a reason, because see, I always tell folks, I practice the art of bless and release. Okay, I don't have to yell and scream.
Not catch and release, just
No,
bless and
bless and release. You understand what I'm saying? Today is your day. And explain to them what they did wrong and why they have to be let go. It's okay, because guess what? You won't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
Because if I've done my job as a leader, you will learn from this situation.
And that's it.
Exactly. Policy
you
states
build
I have to let you go. You understand what I'm saying?
But when you build relationships with people, you don't have to have the fear in approaching them, because they would know that you're not out to get them. Any decision that you've made is based on what's in the best interest of not just one person, but the company, the department, whatever that situation
It's based on policy.
And policy. And when I approach you, because I've approached you before with humanity, because I've approached with you, when you see me coming, you may know you're in trouble, but you don't feel like you need to fight or you have to be defensive, because you know whatever I'm gonna say to you is still coming out of love and respect. Even your best conversations with your parents was not when they was yelling and screaming.
Right.
That's not necessarily when you learned the
Right.
most.
Right.
But when they sat you down and they said, "I'm disappointed,"
Yeah.
and then they went into why they were disappointed. You said, this is different.
It hit different, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I talk to working with some of the school systems that I work with, and I'm talking with administrators, principals, helping them to approach things from more of a social emotional perspective, even with discipline. I go back to a person I worked with who was probably one of the most amazing administrators that I've worked with, and that was Gladys Jordan. When I watched Miss Jordan years ago as an administrator, as a high school principal, when she would have to suspend students, they didn't walk out of her office cussing and screaming and mad. It was almost like, okay, well, I'm going to see you in 3 days, Miss Jordan. Thank you so much. Because she had to explain to them, now, this is what I got to do. This is what you did. Now, we're not going to do this again. And when you come back, you come see me, because we're going to work on a plan so that we don't walk down this road again. And students
You leave them with hope.
That's it.
Not
That's it.
condemnation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And Miss Jordan, we would always laugh about that, but she knows how I feel. Gladys Jordan was the absolute best when it came to providing discipline to students. You don't have to yell and scream at a kid to suspend them.
Yeah.
Guess what? They've already messed up.
Yeah.
You've got to find a way to restore people in those areas. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And as a leader, that was her gift, And so I always try to glean from different people, that I've worked with and worked under in terms of developing quality leadership styles. And that's one of the things that I would always say that I certainly gleaned from her leadership style, even in disciplining students. she was always that kind of person.
Yeah.
You knew at the end of the day, it was personal because she cared about you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And she
sometimes
learned grace.
yes,
She extended people grace.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times when people don't extend people grace is because they've never learned how to extend themselves grace and what that looks like. You know, what that feels like, or to know that someone needs that specifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you haven't made a mistake in your life, you haven't lived. You understand what I'm saying? And I've had people that have had to come and tell me, you know what you've done. Oh, you know what I did. All
My
right.
bad, my
what,
bad.
what we got to do, give me some grace. But guess what?
Yeah.
If the policy, requires that this action, I've got to abide by the policy as well.
Right. Right.
I'm okay with that. I just don't like the people who are intentionally trying to go out there and harm people, intentionally making those decisions. People are going to make mistakes. There's no shame in making a mistake. You learn from that mistake and you move on. But the people who are apologize later, they don't do the planning and they just kind of figure that they'll just apologize, for it later, and you just kind of deal with it. That's the issue, I think, that becomes a problem in leadership. Don't just lead people any kind of way and be like, oop, my bad, we fell in a ditch. That one's on me. But do some forethought about what could potentially happen. And what are the contingency plans, about those things. When you lead another people, it's one thing if you decide you want to go on an adventure by yourself and it only impacts you, well, go ahead, Dora.
Do you?
You do you. Go ahead, explorer. Do you.
Yeah.
But, everybody is not for rock climbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, that's why from a corporate perspective, a business perspective, you have to look at what are you leading from? Where's your place of leadership coming from? Is it based on a corporate model? Is it based on your policies? Because otherwise, you're just doing personal things and you're leading from emotions. And probably the worst thing you can do as a leader is become an emotional leader, because every decision is based on how you feel at that time about someone else. And it makes your leadership style more subjective than objective. And that's when you get your pettiness in there.
Yes,
Exactly.
indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And you find yourself doing something for one person and not with the other.
Inconsistent.
Exactly.
It's not based on
and
policy.
people catch on to that.
And then it creates favoritism.
That's
and people, and then mutiny. And then you're fired because you're not being consistent. What you do for one, you have to do for others. When students say, Dr. Williams, can I redo this and get extra credit? Can I retake that? And I explain to them the difference between high school and college. In college, we're at that point now with some things you cannot redo. If I have 400 students, I have to allow all 400 of them the same opportunity to redo this assignment.
Nope.
Do you think I'm sending out an announcement the day before grades are due for all 400 people to resubmit something for an additional point?
Nope.
So you have to be more cautious as you get age to do things the right way the first time to the best of your ability. And if you cannot, understand that you may not get full credit.
Right.
But you will get what you earn.
Right. Right.
And that is so often subjective. Based on whoever it is who's evaluating you at that moment.
Yeah.
And that's a part of life.
That is a part of life.
Before we roll up out of here, though, you have to tell us how things have changed for you, essentially. We've had this great conversation about leadership, but let us know, since it's been almost like a year and a half since we had this conversation.
Yeah, about a year and a half, man. Like I said, I was in an interesting situation, from the career perspective, and it's funny how things just... It's funny how things is all wrapped up, So I left out of that situation, and shortly after our last interview, I was blessed with another opportunity, still being able to use leadership background, educational background, and still doing something that I didn't realize that I had been doing, the work. So I got into the workforce development, career development type field. And so working as basically a career coach. So now I'm in a situation where
you spent years mentoring.
Exactly. Exactly. And coaching. I just didn't know how to package it. I didn't know how to verbalize it, but this is stuff I've been doing. So basically I am helping students reach that next level, whether it's high school students or even adults from the professional standpoint, from the career standpoint. So basically, in a nutshell, I help people get jobs, man. Isn't that ironic? I was looking for a job. I was looking for a pivot in my career. But now I'm at a point where I'm able to provide that for other people. I'm able to prepare that. Absolutely.
Helping them to breathe through that, because I remember our last conversation, you were talking about being married, having your family, and you left your job, and how are you going to pay these bills? And people were depending on you specifically, but you were firm in that you were not going to just work anywhere because you felt like you had reached that point and what that was going to look like for you. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine, going for that ride. But you now have a different testimony that you can share with people who have been through that part of, I've been unemployed. I put in the work that they said I needed to do to have a job.
Absolutely.
I have, the professionalism aspect. I'm a good person, but now what?
And I often tell people that I coach, I'm here because I've been there. Like what you're going through, and especially when my coaching clients, my adults, I hear a lot of different stories, different challenges that they're facing, and I'm like the whole time, I'm like, yep.
Mr. Me Too.
Been there.
Mr. Me Too.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
So let me explain the options here, and so now I can bring about a level of just credibility to the situation. And so, I'm helping people, Northern Virginia, Michigan. I'm helping people get to that next level. So that's why that next level professional is something y'all going to see a little more often.
Okay.
I'm just blessed, man, and excited about this opportunity and what I'm able to do from here on out.
All right.
Definitely going to have him come back and tell us more about this next level.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to have his wife come back too, because she says she loved hanging with her husband. He's cool. He got money, and everything is free.
Yeah. We haven't had a discussion about that part.
Listen, do not correct her.
Yeah.
It's how she sees the world.
She chilling, right? You're like, I got to shift some things.
That means your leadership is showing her that you got this.
Yeah.
Because she feels comfortable. And if you, a year and a half ago, which she had been able to say that same statement. So that speaks volumes about how much you've grown, not just professionally and personally, but even in your own marriage and relationship. She was holding you down then, and she was supportive, but to put that out in public, she's saying that, don't count my dude out.
That's right.
Things are good over here.
I think she'd have still said it, but everything wouldn't have been free. You know what I'm saying?
He got some money now. Yes, indeed.
He got some money now, so it's free. Man.
Yeah,
yes,
man.
Well, we've had a good time at this table, and I tell you, thank you so much, Daryl, for coming back and talking to us. We look forward to having you once again. So you know what we do.
Yes, it is.
Yes, I am Dr. Richard Mason.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And join us once again next week back here on WHOV, Smooth 88.1 FM.
The essence of HU.
Keep your fork.
Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. for more delicious topical recipes for life on the Sunday Brunch.
On Smooth 88.1 WHOV.